I am finally building my dream PC using literally the fastest parts you can buy available to consumers. And today I'm going to take you along with me and explain why I'm building such an overkill PC and how each thing actually makes a difference in my workflow so that maybe you can understand why certain parts might work for you if you're thinking about upgrading. First, let's look at my current PC to get a baseline for what we're upgrading from. I built this in 2021, and at the time it was considered a pretty solid mid-tier PC. It has a Ryzen 7 3700X, a NVIDIA RTX 2070 Super, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a mix of SSDs and hard drives combined for a cost-effective storage solution. When I built this PC, I was at a different time in my life. I was still in school, I wasn't doing this full-time yet, so I was going for the best performance per dollar I could spend. If I was spending money and it wasn't going towards making my computer faster, I didn't want it. And it got the job done. It wasn't the fastest PC, but it was no slouch either. So I did things to save money, like use a smaller SSD for my boot drive and then have a larger hard drive, which is cheaper. I also reused my original PC case from 2015, but especially within the last year, it's really started to show its age. And the main hurdle it struggles with is playing back 4K H.265 footage from my Canon R5 Mark II and R6 Mark II. An H.265 file is very compressed, and the more compressed a file is, the more the computer has to work to play that file back for you. So it's not exactly a great file format for video editing. This means on my current PC, I have to create something called proxy files. If you want to know more about how those work, I made a whole video about it. It's kind of an old video, but it explains it. Essentially, a proxy file is an easier to playback version of your main file. Then you can edit using the proxy files and swap in the high resolution versions at the end of the editing process. But generating proxy files takes a long time, meaning when I come home from a shoot, I import my footage and then I generate proxy files, which depending on how much footage I have can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. And during that time, my computer is completely useless. But earlier this year, NVIDIA announced the new RTX 5000 series. And alongside that, they announced that they have native H.265 encoding and decoding. And I'll get into exactly why that's so cool in a bit. But that brings me to the new build. It has been almost 5 years since I built my last PC, and this time, my priorities are different. This PC will be a tool that I use every single day to edit photos and videos for my business that earns me my living. So saving a few extra hours every single week because my computer isn't slowing down is a huge deal to me. So this time, there are no compromises. There is no bang for buck. There is only the question, what is the fastest computer I can build? This PC will have a Ryzen 9 9950X3D processor with 16 threads, 32 cores, and extra L3 cache. This will be blazing fast for any editing needs. And for my graphics card, I went with an NVIDIA RTX 5090. For RAM, I went with a 96 gigabyte kit of DDR5 6000 megahertz. I also got a top of the line motherboard, which is traditionally something you can cheap out on if you want to save some money because motherboards don't directly impact performance that much. However, they do impact features. And this motherboard has a few that I'm really interested in. One is 10 gigabit Ethernet built into the motherboard. This will allow me to connect to my server and transfer files super fast as soon as I upgrade the networking in my server to 10 gigabit as well. That's a different video. And it also has two USB-C 4.0 ports on the back. These ports can transfer data up to 40 gigabits per second. That is super important for importing files, especially from this camera, my R5 Mark II, that uses these CF Express Type B cards. Now this OWC 1 terabyte card can do up to 3.6 gigabytes per second transfer speed, which is absolutely insane. For reference, on my old PC with my USB 3.0 ports, the fastest I could transfer was about 300 megabytes per second. Now in terms of real world use, that means an import that would normally take my computer 1 hour to do will now take me less than 6 minutes. That is huge. I seriously cannot put into words how much of an impact that will make after a shoot. Speaking of storage, the speed of your drives will impact, one, how fast you can import your projects, but also how fast your computer starts up and applications start up. In the past, I've bought a smaller SSD because those are the fast ones and they're more expensive. So I have a smaller one for my boot drive and important applications, and then you buy a larger, cheaper, slower hard drive that you store most of the other stuff on. Now, this is actually a really good balance and what I would still recommend if you're on a budget and you want to do this. But today we're going with no compromises. So I went with a WD Black 8 terabyte NVMe PCIe 4.0 SSD. One single drive that is large enough for my operating system, all of the software that I need, and all of my active current projects. Before, I was editing everything off my external Samsung T5 drive, and that was fine, but these external drives are way slower than what this internal SSD can do. And now I don't have to worry about everything being on like 5 different drives. All my active projects and programs and everything are on this drive, and all my finished projects are on my server. That's it. And last, but certainly not least, is the case. The case, of course, doesn't directly impact performance. So if you're building a PC, this is an area where it is totally cool to cheap out a bit. For this reason, on my last build, I was happy to reuse my case that I bought in 2015. But again, times have changed. And I want something that looks and feels professional, but also something that is big enough to fit the absolutely massive graphics card that is the RTX 5090, as well as the 360mm radiator that cools the processor. You know, it turns out there isn't actually a huge market for enthusiast PC cases that also have a professional, stylish look to them. Fractal Design has a couple cool options, but I went with the Asus ProArt PA602. I bought my last case a full decade ago, and I have to say, since then, there have been some massive leaps in the case design world. From the black wood accents to the tempered glass side panel, this case is even more beautiful than it looked in the photos. It's also massive, which is good because the RTX 5090 comes in at a whopping 13.7 inches long, which physically would not have fit in my last case. Now, this is definitely more money than you need to spend on a PC case, but on top of its looks, it also has some nice features. An open front allowing unrestricted airflow with 2 giant 200mm fans. For reference, a standard size case fan, the biggest you can get, is usually 140mm. So this is 60mm bigger than that, and there's 2 of them. Bigger fans are better because if they're larger, they can spin slower to move the same amount of air. And if they're spinning slower, then they're quieter. It also comes with removable dust filters on the top, front, and bottom, and even an infrared dust sensor that detects dust buildup and lights up to tell you when you need to clean the filters, which is actually really good for me because I have a bit of a history of neglecting to clean out my PC case.
Oh my God.
I'll admit, I think I let this get away from me a little bit. At full speed, this case can seriously move some air. And to demonstrate that, I have a wind tunnel effect simulator thing to show you. The case is also really easy to work in using push buttons to remove the side panels instead of screws, and has tons of room to route all the cables neatly and tidily in the back of the case. It also has a built-in support arm to rest the graphics card on, which is an insane thing to need in a case, but here we are. And this is actually really helpful. For those who don't know, newer graphics cards are so massive and so heavy, the weight of them pulling down can actually, over time, pull on the connection that it makes to the motherboard, and over time, that could potentially cause damage. So having a support arm underneath there to make sure that it's not sagging down is actually a big help. I'm really looking forward to the day where they take a graphics card that is as powerful as this and they start just making them a little bit smaller and more efficient. I'm really looking forward. Overall, this case is fantastic. Don't buy it unless you have a lot of room on your desk because it is absolutely huge, but I'm super happy with this case and it makes my old case kind of look like a toy. All right, so with all the tech nerding out of the way, let's talk about how this is going to translate into real world benefits for me and my business. And my main measure here is how much time does this upgrade save me? So here are some rough numbers on that. Starting up with boot time and program load up speeds, the SSD makes sure my computer boots up really fast and programs start up quickly and files are easy to access. That's a pretty small time saving thing. On the theme of storage, I mentioned before, my transfer speeds from importing projects will be about 10 times faster than they were before, which is a massive time saver. All right, picture this, because this actually happens from time to time. I'm shooting an event that ends kind of late. Let's say I get home at midnight. Now the highlight reel from shooting that event is due the next morning at 9 a.m. So I get home and I have to start editing that night. But I'm getting home at midnight and then I have to bring my files onto my computer and generate proxies for an hour. So I can't even start editing the project until 1 a.m. But now I get home, I import the footage super quickly. That doesn't take too much time and I don't have to make proxy files, so I can start editing almost right away. Now that specific scenario, when it's late at night and every minute that I'm not going to bed makes a difference, that is really valuable to me. Not to mention the dozens, if not hundreds of other projects that I do throughout the year, that time is really gonna add up. There's also the small benefit of it's just nice to have everything in one place. Before I was juggling juggling like a combination of 6 different drives to store everything. Most of them were external drives, but now I just have this one internal drive for active stuff and program files and all that, and then my server for backup and archive. Just the 2 things, that's all I have to think about. For photo editing, ever since I upgraded to the R5 Mark II earlier this year, my photo file sizes have doubled because of the resolution. Generating one-to-one previews in Lightroom is much quicker now, and actually making the adjustments to the sliders for each image is really smooth. Before, it wasn't terrible, it was just a little bit laggy, like you make an adjustment and you wait 2 seconds for that adjustment to appear. Now that is totally workable, but considering you usually have to make 10 to 20 to 50 little adjustments when you're editing a photo, not having each one of those slowed down by a couple seconds really does make an impact. It helps you kind of get in that like flow state. Then for the star of the show, the main reason I upgraded this computer in the first place, the video editing performance. Files now export much quicker and complex timelines play back really smoothly. But again, the biggest game changer here is that I can preview and watch back and edit files without generating proxies. I can open files, I can scrub through the timeline and play back things super smooth right from the get-go. This is thanks to the 5090 and NVIDIA's H.265 encoding. My old workflow looked like this. Come home from a shoot, import the footage, which can take half an hour to an hour. Once it's imported, create the project and generate proxy files, which takes another hour or so depending. And then I can start editing the project. And what you need to understand about proxy generation is that rendering files on a computer takes all of the computer's resources to do. It will do it as fast as it can by using everything the computer's got. And that means for you and me, if your computer's rendering files, it's basically effectively useless for anything else because all of those resources are being put towards that. So even if you try to check your email while stuff is rendering, things are going to happen very choppy and very slow for you. But now I get to completely bypass all of that. On top of that, when you have proxy files, they're lower resolution and they don't look as nice to play back. This isn't a big deal, but being able to watch back the footage in the resolution that it actually is a nice thing rather than looking at like a 540p file. That's not like a huge difference. It's just a nice little cherry on top. Now for the total cost of this computer, $6,360.94 Canadian before sales tax. The only question left now is, was it worth it? The short answer is yes. Absolutely worth it for me. In roughly the 3 weeks that have gone by between me building this computer and me finally getting around to finishing the script for this video, I've already worked on about half a dozen client projects. And the difference has been very noticeable and absolutely game changing, especially the combo of fast import times and no proxy files. Over $6,000 might seem like an insane amount to spend on a computer. I guess it might also look like pocket change to some people, I don't know. But I make a living creating videos like this on YouTube and videos for my clients. And saving that amount of time means I can spend more time relaxing, more time finding new clients and making more money, and more time effectively working on videos for my clients and for you guys. And a massive part of that whole process is sitting down at my desk and editing videos.